Hi, hunters. Thank you for tuning into the Flush'em and Dustin podcast brought to you by Nick and Tyler, the boys from Ringnecks and Retrievers. In this podcast, we will talk about guns, dogs, gear, and our successes and failures in the field through our combined 40 years of experience. We speak with hunters just like you from across the nation about their days in the field and the many memories they built with their friends and family. We are excited to have you listen. Now let's get to Flush'em and Dustin. Welcome, hunters, back to another Flush'em and Dustin podcast. We have Erik Petersen from Montana here tonight. We're going to talk to him a little bit about upland hunting, Montana birds, and everything in between. Erik, why don't you give us a little bit of your background, and then we're going to start off after that by you giving us a couple of your favorite hunts.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, guys. This is fun to do. My name's Erik Petersen. I'm a photographer and filmmaker based in Livingston, Montana, Southwest Montana. I've been out here for about 20 years now. My passion is upland hunting, bird dogs, and getting my kids out in the field. So that's kind of how my fall is spent. Usually trying to get my kids onto birds or whatever it is we're chasing at any given moment.
Awesome.
How old are your kids?
Kids are 11 and 12, two boys, 11 and 12 now. So they're just getting to that prime age of being able to go hunting. They've done the apprentice program here in Montana the past couple of years. So kind of tagging along with me and learning the ropes. And now they're just getting out there and doing it for themselves now, which is super fun.
Yeah, that's gotta be super exciting.
That's exciting. Yeah, I have two girls, a lot younger. So one's 2 and the other one's 4 months. But I'm excited for them to hopefully get up there and get them out in the outdoors as well in the next 10 years, I guess it would be.
So. Yeah, it's so much fun. It takes the hunting to a whole new level when you get to bring the kids along.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get into one of your stories, what's there's a lot of fathers that probably listen to this and whatnot. What's something that you think has helped you introduce pheasant hunting to your kids and what's helped them enjoy it?
A strong snack game.
That's funny. We had a guy on here a few weeks back, Nate Strickler. He's been on a few times, and he said he takes kids to the field as well. And he's like, "Man, you got to have the best snacks in the truck. It's like true. It'll turn the day around."
It's true. You can stretch the day a lot longer if you've got a good snack game in the truck going. And that's how it was. Like, I've been taking them to northern Montana on our annual boys trip for probably 5 years now. And of course, so that they were like 5 and 6 years old when we started that. So it ended up being a lot of driving around in the truck, watching the roosters run across the road, wishing I could get out after them, already tired legs, wanting to just go for a little more drive and eat a few more donuts or whatever. So it was like trying to strike that balance between making it fun, getting them into the sport, but also scratching my own itch to shoot a bird or two.
Oh, absolutely.
So
all right, man. Tell us about a couple of your favorite stories, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I'll go with the most recent as one of my favorites. I took my 12-year-old Henry out to eastern Montana last weekend. Met my dad, who lives in Minnesota. We met kind of halfway and to chase turkeys. Henry the only thing he had shot prior to this trip was a couple upland birds. So he's just getting into it, wanting to deer hunt this year. So it was kind of the first stepping stone. He made his own little checklist for what he wanted to get this year, and turkey was on that list. So we went out with high hopes. Met my dad, who's a super avid hunter. He already had a blind set up, kind of had us dialed in. So Henry went out with him the first night, sat in the blind and called some turkeys in. Henry got a shot, missed. The turkeys got scrambled, kind of ran around. Some jakes were going back and forth. Got another shot, missed, and finally on the third shot, dumped the jake.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Dad followed up with a nice tom right after that. So they doubled that night. And then the second night, I went out in the blind because you can get 2 turkeys in that area. I went out and sat in the blind with Henry. And we had another group come in. He was, for the night before, he was a little bit bummed that he missed because he really wants to be accurate with the gun. So he was a little bit let down that he missed, but he was excited He and I were in the blind. We sat for a couple hours giggling, eating snacks, waiting. Finally, some turkeys showed up. It was a rigmarole because we were facing the wrong way. So we had to get everything turned around, the monopod, the chairs in the blind. It was like Tommy Boy, fat guy in a little suit trying to get spun around in that blind. Finally got moved around. By that time, the turkeys had a pretty good idea that something was going on with that shaking camel blind, but there, the jakes came over that direction anyway because we had some decoys set up, and I was trying to get Henry lined up, and he was trying to pick out a bird. And finally, I said, just wait for one to get all by itself and shoot it in the head. And so he did, and he dropped it first shot. So he was
nice.
pumped. And as soon as that one went down, one of the mature toms saw it struggling, came running over. So I grabbed the 20 gauge from Henry because my gun was on the other side of the blind, way out of reach after all that. Grabbed the 20 gauge from Henry, and I dumped the tom that came over to fight the dying jake. Cool. So we doubled up that night too. So
that was what a memory! What a memory!
Yeah. Couldn't have gone any better.
Is Henry? So now he's hooked. Obviously,
he's hooked. He's pumped.
He's ready to go. Ready to go. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I was gonna say, what's he ready for next?
Yeah, he wants to get a deer next. So
nice.
Has he got any type of deer? Like, does he want a buck? Is he looking for a doe?
He said a doe because he didn't want to set his expectation too high. And I said, I mean, we could probably find a buck, buddy, if we try hard enough. So I think he'd be happy with anything at this point.
Yeah, you see some of those young kids, they shoot a 200 class deer, Boone and Crockett, and like, what are you gonna look forward to the rest of your life? Because that's a one in a lifetime deer. That's rare for you to get those. Yeah,
that bar is set pretty high early on. I'd much rather start out with a spike and gradually make my way up with the kids.
Oh, for sure.
No kidding.
For sure.
Another highlight hunt was last year, also with the kids. I had both boys along. Henry was trying, had wanted all season to get a pheasant, was trying to get a pheasant. And that is so hard. Wing shooting is so hard for kids. I mean, wing shooting is so hard for me, period.
I agree. And
then it's hard for kids, and he was shooting a 20 gauge. So it's whatever. It's just tricky for everything to come together and to have the kid in the right place and the dog in the right place and everything being safe. And then I've got kid number 2 tagging along too. So I got to keep him out of the way. So it's like this mental gymnastics trying to get it all to come together. So we had tried and he had missed, and we had tried, and things hadn't worked out time and time again. He was getting a little frustrated. And finally, we had a situation where the dog, I've got a Poodle Pointer and a German Shorthair. So the Poodle Pointer is 6 now. So he was 5 then. He went on point in this he was tracking through this thick, low brush. And I kept Henry up on the trail, kind of up above. And I was going through the thick brush, staying with the dog. And it came to a gully. And Gus, my Poodle Pointer, kept circling around trying to get into that deep gully. So I knew exactly where the bird was, and I got Henry situated right at the top of that gully, and Gus finally got into that gully to where he could get in after the bird and pointed, and I released him, and the bird, it worked out so perfectly for a kid because the bird came straight up in the air.
Oh, nice.
It was kind of surrounded by trees and in the gully, came straight up in the air and hung for just long enough where he got his gun up. I got my gun up, and he shot and I shot, and I told him he nailed it. Way to go, Henry.
Nick, don't you have some sort of story like that?
Yeah, so back when I was, it was high school-ish, maybe college, but my dad, my uncle, my cousin, and I, we'd always, for years, we went to Pheasant Farms, and that's just what we did every year. We do it a couple times. Yeah. Well, my cousin, I'm 34, he's 22, so he's quite a bit younger than me. He's 10, 12 years younger than me. Anyway, we're doing this, and he could never get a bird. And, it's on a farm, could never get a bird. Well, finally we could tell, I believe it was my dog Jackson was on a bird, and I was like, hey, he's birdie, a bird's going to get up. So my Uncle Steve is sitting there, Ben, get ready, we're going to kick it up. But my Uncle Steve's there. Ben shoots, Steve shoots, bird drops. You could tell Ben never hit the bird. He's like, good shot, Ben, good shot. And we all kind of look at him, and I was like, whatever. I don't know
building
if
that confidence.
I don't know if he's ever gotten a bird before at all, honestly. It's kind of funny.
Oh,
It's such a mental game. It's such a mental game. I think wing shooting
is.
and it's such a mental game in general that it's like if you can build that confidence, both, and I'm the same way. If I get a couple hits, my confidence skyrockets. I shoot way better, and it's like if I can get him one hit where he feels like he got it, I know he's going to perform better. I know he's going to shoulder the gun better, have more confidence, all that. So it was super fun. And
Tyler's that same way, but he could never get that first hit.
Yeah, I know. He's just straight downhill, like in a ravine.
If you know me, I don't really lose confidence really at all. So I could miss once, but I'm gonna hit that next bird. I can tell you that.
I hunted with a guy in South Dakota last fall who is not a pheasant hunter, does a little bit of like once a year kind of hunter. And his take was, the more I get to shoot, the more fun I'm having. Like, it's more bang for your buck. I'm just going to throw lead out there because that's why I showed up in the field today. So I thought that was pretty good. If you're a bad shot, that's not a bad way to approach it.
True.
Yeah, it's not.
Until the price of shells gets too high.
Right. Until you can't.
Yeah, now they're super high, right?
If you can find them, right?
50%. Is that what I heard?
Yeah,
I know Winchester and Browning just put a thing out that they were jumping prices 25%. That was about a month ago I saw, or 20%, something like that. So
it's a bummer.
You can't afford to miss.
I know. Yeah. So so Eric, what
doesn't shoot?
Yeah. Sometimes I just see it get up and I'm like, next time. But so what got you into pheasant hunting and running with Poodle Pointers and GSPs?
So I'm the son of a lifelong passionate hunter. My dad's always hunted. He had 4 boys that were always tagging along with him in the field. So that's just what we did. In the fall, we always hunted. He is more of a big game hunter. I started work for a dog trainer in high school who trained primarily labs, retrievers. So I worked for him for 4 years, got my first dog from him, which was a black lab. Waterfowl hunted quite a bit in Minnesota where I grew up. And then when I graduated college, I moved out to Montana and quickly realized that the game here was upland. And if you're going to upland hunt, you need a dog that can cover some ground because it's big country. So I got a short hair after my black lab died. And then it was just, once I went down the pointing dog hole, I never came back out. I had that short hair. Some friends of mine, after my short hair died, some friends of mine who had got Poodle Pointers and really liked them as kind of almost like an in-between of a lab and a pointing dog. They're more versatile. They tend to be better retrievers. So I just wanted to try something new, and I've had a lot of fun with the Poodle Pointer. And then just last year I got a short hair puppy. So now I've got a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. And it's so much fun just to watch them run in the big fields in Montana.
Yeah. What is it hunting like out in Montana? I mean, is it pretty hilly? I guess I'm not really familiar with the landscape.
It's all over the board. I mean, it tends to be more, certainly for upland other than pheasant, it's more hilly, rugged terrain. If you're hunting sharptails or huns, it tends to be, breaky country or hilly country. Pheasant, it can be anything. We have cattail sloughs out here. You can find them in. We have brushy draws in the hilly country. You can find them in. So they can be found in all sorts of different country.
So when you get out to a field, are they pretty big? In Iowa, we don't have, I wouldn't say, like large tracts of land. I mean, you get, if you're looking at public ground, you're getting maybe I think one of the biggest fields that I've been to is 300-400 acres, which I don't know if that compares to Montana, or if Montana is much bigger than that.
Yeah, I think it tends to be bigger. There's not a lot of corn out here. There's some in the northeast corner of the state.
Yeah.
So the style of hunting is quite a bit different. We're not hunting cornrows or block and push kind of tactics. It's more just following your dog through wild country, really, which is part of the draw for me. I'd never really done much Midwest style pheasant hunting until last year when I went to South Dakota. And there's a mix there, of course, too, just like Minnesota, Iowa, anywhere else. You can hunt cornfields or you can hunt brushy draws or whatever. But I certainly like the country, big, wild feel of Montana pheasant hunting. But I'm partial. I live here.
You got to worry about predators up there, Eric, when you're hunting like that? I'm just curious, a wolf or, I don't know, anything like that?
I've had coyotes chase the bird dogs.
Oh, wow.
To where I've had to fire a shot to scare them off. Really, snakes are the biggest thing, though. In September, when it's still warm, that's kind of the...
You have rattlesnakes, or what type of snakes?
Rattlesnakes, yeah, prairie rattlers. And they can be obviously destructive for a bird dog. So I tend to hunt mountain grouse in September as opposed to sharptail or huns, just because the snakes aren't up that high. You can find birds and not have to worry about snakes as much.
Yep.
Do you do any special training with your dogs for snakes, or
I have a friend of mine is a breeder and trainer, and he gets a couple snakes every summer and offers snake training. So I've done that with both dogs.
Can you give us kind of a rundown of what that is? I've never really looked into it much.
There's people that find snake dens around here and capture rattlesnakes for for dog training or for, I don't know what all they use them for, to be honest.
I wouldn't want to keep one.
I don't have any interest in getting close to them myself. So anyway, he usually gets a handful of them. He'll put them in a metal cage, almost like a metal dog crate, but a smaller version, so their smell can dissipate around the area. And their sound can as well. And then what he does is he leads the dog up until they obviously hit the scent cone of the snake. And when they show a sign of smelling it, he'll hit them with the e-collar. If that's it, if they back off, then it's pretty much good. He'll go crate them, give them 10, 15 minutes and do it again. And generally that's enough. If they're aggressive or gamey dogs where they're going to, go after whatever it is, and that doesn't work, then he'll get them even closer and hit them at a higher level. So it's just e-collar training, showing them that any scent or sound or sight of that snake is going to result in a negative enforcement.
Do you have your dogs e-collar trained, Eric?
I'm sorry?
Do you have your dogs e-collar trained?
I do, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And what does your training consist of? Do you take them somewhere? Are you training yourself?
Most of my training is on wild birds. I mean, generally I'll start puppies out on pigeons in the field in controlled environments with a pigeon launcher, just to reinforce whoa, or to get them, not even reinforce whoa early on. It's just to get them using their nose and figuring out, that's how the scent works and what it all means, putting the pieces together. So I'll use pigeons for the first few months. And then come like August, I just try and get out in the field as much as I can and get them on wild birds at a young age. My goal in their first year is always just to hunt as much as I possibly can, get them on as many wild birds as I possibly can, because every single one of those contacts with a wild bird, they're learning something, their brains, their light bulbs coming on, they're figuring out the game.
One thing that we've done is early pups, and early on we go to Pheasant Farms. So we do pay for them. But I found that to be really beneficial. A couple years back, well, actually every year, we've gone to a field that's heavily populated in wild birds. And, I think it helps having all that scent in those preserves. It seems like our dogs are able to lock down that scent cone a lot quicker and a lot easier than maybe some dogs that are just strictly in wild birds. And I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but it's just kind of something that we've seen last couple of years. It's kind of like, I wonder if that has anything to do with them being able to do this when there's so many birds around.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't hurt.
Is there, how old's your short hair again? That was his first year last
just
year?
turned one, yeah.
Just
So that
turned
was his
one.
first season.
Nice. Is there a big difference? And maybe you didn't notice it just because it was first year and being younger, but is there a big difference, or do you think there's going to be a big difference in the way that your GSP and your poodle pointer hunt? I guess, what's their names? We haven't even.
Yeah, the poodle pointer is Gus. The short
Yes.
hair is Zeke.
Zeke. That's a cool name.
Thanks. One of the biggest differences I see is when the poodle pointer gets birdie, he tends to slow down. Whereas when the short hairs get birdie, they tend to speed up. The poodle pointer just generally works slower.
Yeah.
So for pheasants, he's kind of ideal because he's in that thicker cover. He's slowing down and working more methodically.
Yeah.
For short hair or for sharptail and huns, the short hair is money because they cover ground, and that's what you need to do with those birds.
Do those poodle pointers stay pretty close when they're working with birds, or how's it? Are they pretty rangy like a GSP?
I think it probably depends on the country they're brought up in and trained in and whatnot. The sort of cover, like any dog, and thicker cover, cattails and stuff, he's working. Usually I'll keep him within 60 yards. Open grassy country, if I'm hunting huns or sharptails, he'll range out to 100, 150.
What's your advice on hunting sharptails and huns? Because Tyler and I are looking at doing this.
What's my advice? Cover a lot of ground. Get a dog that can cover a lot of ground. Man, there were so many sharptails in northern Montana last year. You could point your gun in the sky and pull the trigger with your eyes closed and darn near hit one. It was amazing to see the flocks of like 50 to 100 birds fly over.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what, I'm no wildlife biologist. I don't know what the secret sauce was last year, but the numbers were up last year anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's the perfect. Do you guys run flushers or pointers?
Flushers.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
That kind of point, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. The nice thing about both those birds is they're perfect for pointing dogs because they tend to hold. They're not a running bird like a pheasant. So,
yep.
Especially for young pointing dogs, a covey of huns puts off a fair amount of scent and they don't run, they hold. So nice. It's nice for that. I think if you find an area that has those birds, it's just a matter of putting on the miles. And there's plenty of them around. They tend to, like anything, they water, a fair amount of cover, and the right food crop. Russian olives tend to be a magnet for the sharptails, especially.
Russian olives?
Yeah, it's a non-native invasive species. It ends up being a small tree, but They have little green olives as fruit, and the birds just love them. When you open a crop on a pheasant or a sharptail in the fall, they'll be stuffed full of those little green olives.
Is that? Do you find those in outside of Montana in sharptail country, like in South Dakota, or is it more just to Montana?
No, I think North Dakota, South Dakota. I think generally in the West, they were. I don't quote me on this, but they were used a lot for like shelter belts and cover for homesteads because they multiply pretty quickly and they cover a fair amount of area. So they used them as a fence row or hedgerow for homesteads essentially, and they just took off. And the birds love them. That's one of the main ingredients. They're pretty popular out here in the West.
Nice.
So now, do you go out of state of Montana to hunt anywhere else for upland game? You just mainly stay around that area?
Yeah, generally I'm in Montana. Up until just the last few years, I was also archery hunting for elk in September, and then antelope hunting in October with the rifle, and then maybe rifle hunting for elk if I didn't get one with a bow. So Montana has so much to offer that I didn't generally leave. I've sort of hung up the bow, and just now that I have two bird dogs, I'd rather just follow them in the field. So Now that I'm focused
fun, isn't it?
primarily on Upland, like last year I went to South Dakota. Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
Last year I went to
mean,
South Dakota. This year I think I'm going to go to Idaho chucker hunting.
I used to do it all too. I used to bow hunt, turkey hunt, duck hunt, goose hunt, pheasant hunt, squirrel hunt, anything you think of, I was doing it. And now I'm 34 now, 2 kids, and it's like, I'll just take my weekend and go bird hunting with the dog and get out of the house and get some exercise instead of sitting in a tree stand and scouting. And just obviously, if I wanted to, I could make time to do it, but it's not something I have a big passion for.
Yeah, once kids enter the picture, you kind of have to get a little more specific with
Yes.
how your time is spent.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
As you can see, my youngest
And
daughter
sitting
made
in
an
a tree stand.
appearance tonight.
Yeah, she's a cutie. Yeah, sitting in a tree stand is a little. I mean, people do it with kids all the time, but it's it's not quite as conducive as a stroll with the bird dog.
Oh, for sure. And the kid, if they go with you, they're nice and tired when they get home, so they sleep. So you don't come home to a kid with a bunch of energy.
And and 2 dogs with a bunch of energy. Yeah, it's good to wear everybody out. Yeah,
that's right.
Yep.
So Eric, what are you missing these birds with these days? What are you shooting out there?
I should have. I can miss with just about anything. Generally, I'm missing with a 12 gauge Browning Satori.
Oh, nice.
That was the graduation present from my dad when I graduated high school, and that's what I've been shooting ever since.
What a collector's item! Oh man.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Tyler, we can't hear you.
Does it have any engravings or anything on it, or?
No, it's just a pretty bare bones model. It's a workhorse. It's certainly like I've always just hunted with it in the duck blind and in the grouse woods, whatever. It's got lots of scratches and dings, but it's got a lot of memories too.
Yeah, lots of stories behind it.
I need my wife to talk to your dad on how to get it.
Yeah, he did that for all of us. That was pretty cool.
That's really cool. Is there a lot of public ground out in Montana, or are you mainly hunting all private ground?
So much public ground. Yeah, really? That's almost all I hunt. We have a block management program, which is, I think a lot of states have real similar under different names, but essentially landowners get paid to let hunters hunt. And that's a really robust and popular program out here in Montana. So a lot of people hunt that block management. But yeah, I mean, between BLM and National Forest and state land, and there's just so much public ground, and so much of it is really good hunting that you can spend your entire fall just hunting public land and have a good season.
When's season open out there?
Second weekend of October generally for pheasant. Upland, like grouse and huns and whatnot, are September 1st.
Oh.
Yep.
So
so it's September 1st to January 1st, essentially. You can upland hunt.
So it's a little bit shorter pheasant season than what we have.
No,
we're October 31st. Yeah, that's right.
It opens 2 weeks earlier, so it's the same.
Yeah. When so if you were looking to come out to Montana to do public land hunting, and obviously not hotspot, nothing like that, but where would you recommend to go to find some decent ground?
Yeah, North Dakota, I think.
yeah. That was a good response.
Generally, the eastern half of the state, anywhere east of Billings, north of Billings, east of Billings is kind of pheasant country. Where I live in Southwest Montana, isn't generally considered great pheasant country, although there are places with a lot of pheasants, like Bozeman area has a lot of pheasants, but it's all private.
Okay.
So as far as access to good pheasant hunting, it's northern Montana and eastern Montana.
Nice.
Yeah. Otherwise known as western North Dakota.
Yeah. That'd be a good, interesting. It'd probably be a pretty long trek for us from Iowa all the way out to
it'd be
Montana,
worth it though.
I
mean, 2 weeks earlier to get on some wild birds.
When do the snakes disappear?
After the first frost, so probably, second, third week of September, they're probably certainly by the 1st of October, they're generally gone.
So by the time pheasant season would open, they're probably.
I say that, and they're probably going to be.
yeah. Then I bring a dog out and gets bit.
Oh shit!
But yeah, so
right.
You would say
generally by pheasant season they're down. Generally, there's been a freeze.
Nice. Well, we might have to keep in contact with you, so that way if we plan a hunt out there, we can ask you if it's froze yet or
we'll
not.
We'll use your dogs so they get bit.
Yeah, they're already trained.
Yeah, my dogs know to stay away from them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I could see Tyler's dog Murph would be all in on it.
Oh fuck! It would not be good. He got in a scuffle with a coon this year, and man, he's just like I think it was 2 coons, but man, he gets on a sentence.
I think we did.
You can't hear me?
Oh,
no, you're frozen. You're back.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying he got in a fight with 2 coons this year, and he's just a fucking knucklehead sometimes. I don't know what to do with him. But if he smelled a snake, he wouldn't stay away from it.
I had Gus on a hike two summers ago, and it was almost mountainous, not quite, I guess. It was a warm, sunny area, and he was up ahead of me, and he came running back with his tail between his legs, and there was something clearly wrong, and I couldn't figure out what it was, but I walked around the corner, and there was a rattlesnake coiled up in the middle of the trail, and he had turned tail and run away from it. So the snake training worked anyway. And he's a real gamey dog. Like he'll roll a skunk every chance he gets, man. He'll attack anything that moves generally. He killed a gopher the other day.
Well, that gives you some confidence.
So that, certainly. I think the snake training worked for him.
Yeah. Did you do that at a super young age, or how old were they when they go through that training?
I do it in the first year. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Generally like 9 months to a year old, I think.
Okay.
You know what's going to happen now, Eric? Tyler's going to call me. He's going to be out searching for rattlesnakes this weekend.
There are some places in Iowa that do have rattlesnakes. Not very many, but there are some around. I hope I never come across one, man. Those things are nasty little buggers.
They are.
So what out of all the upland birds, what's your favorite one to chase?
Pheasant, hands down.
Yeah.
Why is
I don't even have to think about it. I don't know. I like how big and gaudy and loud and colorful, and I like that they seemingly can outthink you, although I'm sure their brains aren't developed enough to actually think, but they're cagey. They can outsmart a dog and a human. I just like the versatility of them. I don't know. Everything about them. They're not predictable. So many of the upland birds that I could otherwise hunt, you can kind of predict a lot of things about them. But pheasants,
because like you said, they don't run, right? A lot of the other birds, which Tyler and I have never really hunted before. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, around here, pheasants, man. Our last hunt of the year this year, we saw 200 birds probably. Come away with one.
Yeah, they were getting up like 100 yards out.
They're just getting up 100 yards out. None were sitting still. We had a coyote bust out the field in front of us, scare a bunch up. Like, it was just, they make it challenging. Now, if they were just a bird that sat there, well, I mean, it'd still be fun. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but there's something about holding that big, huge, colorful bird in your hand after you shoot one too, and the spurs and the tail. It's the whole package. And I know there's plenty of people that call them ditch parrots and that have little respect for them because of all the things that I just said. But for whatever reason, that's what gets me. All those things are what hook me on pheasants.
Yeah.
And they're great to eat.
Oh, they do taste good. And that color makes for some good pictures.
Absolutely.
Obviously you're in photography, right?
Yeah, I'm a freelance photographer and filmmaker, and a lot of what I do these days is in the hunting realm. So The
So
most
do
recent film I'm
people
working.
hire you out?
Yep. I
Go ahead,
work
sorry.
for a number of
Yeah.
different outdoor brands. What I was going to say is the most recent film that I'm working on right now, I shot last fall for Pheasants Forever, and it's about pheasant hunting. It's a story about bird dogs and the tradition of hunting, and the main character is from this area but grew up in South Dakota, and goes back there to hunt some of the old haunts his dad used to hunt when he was a kid, or that he used to hunt with his dad when he was a kid. His dog, it was his last year was his dog's last season of hunting, so he wanted to take him back to some of the places that he hunted with his dad as a kid. So it was a really cool story, and I got to combine my passions of filmmaking and pheasant hunting, which was super rewarding for me. So that one will be coming out in August, I think they're planning on.
Oh man,
That is super cool. Yeah,
to be exciting. Yeah.
So is it?
Yeah, and then the photography work is kind of all around hunting as well. It's kind of outdoor brand lifestyle photography. I do some editorial, like magazine work as well, but more and more kind of the brand marketing stuff. So a lot more of my work has kind of gone the way of pheasant hunting and outdoors and hunting in general, which has also been really fun because my background is newspaper and magazine photography. So it's taken, I've been making a living with my camera for 20 years now. It's taken almost 20 years to get to the point where I'm like photographing and making films about the things that I'm passionate about, which is pretty awesome to get there.
That is cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's it take for you to do a video for somebody? Like what's the process of that? Pheasants Forever reached out to you and said, hey, we want a video of this guy, or?
No, that was one, it was my concept. I pitched to them, and like all these films that I do, I come up with the concept and I pitch to organizations or brands that I think would align well with it. So in that case, I knew Pheasants Forever would be an obvious choice, and I talked to them, and they were interested in the story, and so they signed on as the main sponsor.
That's very cool.
That's
got to be hard to. Is it hard to film pheasant hunting, like good quality pheasant hunting?
Yeah. I think I've done a lot of filming for other brands and outlets in the big game world, but which I feel like is a lot easier.
Yeah.
The caveat being you get one shot, for the kill. So if you miss that one shot, you kind of blew it. But whereas pheasant hunting, you might get a dozen of those in a day. But that said, there's so many moving parts. The peak action of the bird flushing and gun shooting is a fraction of a second. So if you're not dialed in, then you kind of miss that. But thankfully, you get multiple chances at it in a day, ideally.
And that's got to take forever to edit something like that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I filmed 2 years worth of shooting for that film. So
oh, wow.
I mean, last fall in South Dakota was kind of the finale of it. But prior to that, I was shooting him, filming him training in the field, filming him hunting Montana the fall before, filming him in his homes with his dog, so it's hours and hours and dozens of hours of film to wade through to distill it down to about a 10-minute film.
That's crazy.
It's a 10-minute film?
Yeah. It'll be a roughly 10-minute. Yeah.
Dang.
So
that's very
the magic
cool,
is, the magic is definitely in the editing, because we've all seen movies or films that could have been edited tighter or should have been edited tighter that, drag on and lose your attention. And done well, it keeps your attention and keeps you through. So that's sort of the goal, at least for me.
That sounds like it's going to be a cool film.
When is this launching?
Yeah. I'm not 100%, but they were talking about August leading up to this hunting season. So sometime, late summer.
Nice.
And it's called.
Well, if you want to spend 4 years, filming two Iowa boys, I mean, Tyler and I'd be up for it.
as many birds as I
Is
miss,
that
it's going
roughly
to
how long
take
it would
4
take?
years.
Yeah. Well,
I don't live too
there was some
interesting of a
missing
life.
involved
So.
in the South Dakota hunt too.
Yeah,
That's
my life's
awesome.
not too interesting either.
So, very cool.
Yeah,
Well,
and then the next project I've got coming up is also around pheasant hunting. I'm starting a series, like a YouTube series of upland hunting stories called Tailgate Tales. And
nice.
this first season will be pretty much all in Montana, with maybe a couple nearby states. But each episode, I'll have a guest, someone who's in a creative profession. Like I've got a writer / poet for one of the guests, a wildlife artist, taxidermist, upland taxidermist. So people who have some sort of creative bent. So we'll get to know them in their studio or their writing cabin or whatever it is where they do their work, and then we'll go out in the field and hunt and talk about kind of how the outdoors and hunting influences their art and that sort of thing. So it's a little different take on upland hunting, which I'm really excited to
Super cool
to get started.
Have you ever made contact with Edgar Castillo Hunt Birds on Instagram?
I follow him. I know of him just through Instagram. I've never talked to him, but
yeah. So he's wrote a lot of articles for like Project Upland magazine and whatnot.
Sure.
He might be a guy that you should reach out. We had him on our podcast a while back.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He might be a good contact to reach out to for a good film.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
He works at a gun shop now. He's retired and but he's very good at writing. So
nice.
Might be a good contact. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
where do you come up with your ideas from? Where's it stem from? Like that's something new that I've never heard about before. Is this all you? You got a team with you, or how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, it's all an attempt to get paid to do what I love. So my motivation is like, how can I figure out a way to get paid to pheasant hunt or to go hunting? Generally, it's me. This Tailgate Tales was me and a friend were kind of spitballing ideas of a series. We wanted to do a series versus a standalone film, which is kind of my background, is all either still photography or standalone film. This will be the first series I've done. We wanted to try something new and didn't want it to just be hunting porn, wanted to have some other element to it rather than just blasting. And so it was just kind of a collaboration with this hunting buddy of mine who also is a filmmaker, of like, how can we do something different, something unique, something that's not been done or not been done well.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can do it well.
There really isn't any good. I mean, the flush is, that's pretty decent footage, but I mean, outside of that, if you look on YouTube, I mean, I haven't really found any good upland, that's professional level, I guess you could say.
Another guy that you might want to contact, he's not much of an upland bird guy, but Alex Langbell, he owns Gundog Outdoors, and he just moved to Montana.
Oh,
yep.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And he has his own property and stuff. Super interesting guy. He was a fighter. His whole career, just retired. Is taking on Gundog Outdoors full time. So he makes safety equipment for gun dogs and working dogs in general. Huge passion of his. So he'd be a really good one for you to get on.
Oh, that's good to know.
And he has a media background.
Right.
He does have a media background. I don't know where.
I don't.
No, he never specifically said. Just
that's cool.
Kind of a ranch.
A
ranch out there. So
so he used to shoot some videos of duck hunters as well. So he has that media background too. So he'd know exactly how, probably what you wanted and help you and vice versa. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Super good contact.
Good. Thanks.
Well, Eric, we appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, it's great.
A lot of
great
awesome
podcast.
information.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We try to keep them right close to under an hour. But definitely super thankful and love to hear about your background, and definitely look forward to the film being put out by Pheasants Forever and yourself for doing all that work for it, and your series that's going to be coming out, the Tailgate Tales. So
Yeah,
if you're ever in Iowa or coming this way, let us know and we'll put a hunt together for you.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm hoping season 2 of Tailgate Tales we can expand out from Montana and hunt some, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, some of the surrounding states. So ideally
sure.
we'll be coming
That'd be
your way
cool.
at some point in the future.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Well, let's keep in contact, and we look forward to seeing your media in the future.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on,
Eric.
guys.
Take care of those boys, man.
All right.
Have a good night.
Later.